is Sarah Bouse, and I teach language arts classes and music classes at Well-Trained Mind Academy. My background is in music. I have experience in both the performance side of things, with studies in collaborative piano being my first master's degree, as well as the more academic side of things. During the COVID-19 pandemic, I decided to join the armies of students going to school from their couches in their pajamas, and I got a master's degree in music education, which has really helped my teaching in this online space since I was myself a student on the other side of the screen during the COVID-19 pandemic. I love teaching both writing classes and music classes because both of these subject matters are geared toward fluency in communication. Music classes, I fully recognize that most of my students are not going to go on to become the next Mozart. However, emotional communication is necessary for all of us, and music is a great medium that can allow students to explore expressing their own feelings and sharing them with others. So whether a student ends up going on to a music conservatory and pursuing music as a career, or they simply play as a hobbyist for the rest of their life, music can be a very useful tool for developing emotional maturity and awareness. Same thing with the written word. We all might not go on to become the next Hemingway or Charles Dickens, but we will be expected to communicate using the written word at some point in our lives, whether it's as simple as sending an email to set up an appointment, or as complex and involved as writing a academic paper that goes on to be presented at conferences. We all have to use the written word to communicate, and seeing the growth in students' communication abilities, both emotionally and verbally, through the written word is a very satisfying experience for me as a teacher. In my online classroom, students can prepare for class by coming ready to participate with hopefully an open and active mind and lots of curiosity. They'll need all of their materials for class. Sometimes students will be expected to read a portion of their textbook or to read or watch a video prior to coming to class, but there's usually very clear assignment guidelines about pre-work before coming to class. In class, students can expect to build relationships before we jump into course material. Sometimes we use icebreaker questions or would you rather kind of questions to get students talking and engaged with the material. Other times we share about our lives, what we did over the weekend or what we're looking forward to next weekend, maybe holiday break plans, things like that. And it always makes me happy to see when students are forging their own relationships within the classroom. During class, you can also expect to see some appearances of my trusty teaching assistants. I don't know where they are now, but I do have cats, and the students always enjoy getting to know my cats through the school year, and they often make requests that my cats grade the papers instead of me. I always assure them, though, that the cats would be much stricter than I am, so I'm not sure they want them to do that. During class, students also will participate in group work together. We do peer review for the writing classes, where students are able to strengthen their weaknesses and help their classmates with the areas in which they are already strong. I also ask that students participate in class both in the chat through typing in the chat box and also on the audio in case the student wants to say something that would take too long to type. I always welcome actual verbal participation during class. After class, students are expected to submit their homework assignments on time, of course. Part of that is going to be through the medium of an assignment checklist. Especially at the beginning of the school year, I teach students how to develop an assignment checklist so that they are comfortable and confident that they have all the material they need in their assignment before they submit it and that they didn't forget anything. Students also are expected to communicate with me outside of class. If they have a question or a concern about the content of class, about deadlines, anything that comes up for them, I welcome their emails, and we discuss how to write an email to a teacher, how to express whatever your question may be, and also how to communicate with me as their teacher in a timely fashion so that they can get a response and also not feel like they're waiting until the last minute to get answers to whatever inquiries they may have. Students are also encouraged to learn how to use the technology that we have available to us both through Blackboard and also through word processors, and using the internet in a safe and wise fashion for the material that they need to research for this class. My favorite assignments that I receive from students are the ones where their personalities really shine through the most. For writing classes, this is usually in the essays where they are able to choose their own topic. That's usually the midterm or the final essay. These are so fun to read because you can see the student's personality, you can see their likes and dislikes, and you can also see them show off all the skills that they've learned throughout the school year. In music classes, I love all of the performance projects. Again, students' personalities shine through. They're able to share parts of themselves through their music, and the students usually really build each other up and cheer hard for one another and give amazing compliments to each other when we get the chance to just sort of pause the academics for a moment and perform for one another. It's so much fun to be in those live class times and see the students' support of and appreciation of each other. In short, my favorite part about teaching at Well Trained Mind Academy is building relationships with my students. The classroom is a safe space for students to come and share their ideas and to be present with one another and to build friendships amongst themselves, as well as relationships with me and, of course, my trusty teaching assistant cats. I really enjoy working here at Well Trained Mind, and I love building relationships with all my students. Hello students, welcome to class. Today we are going to learn about time and sequence words. Time and sequence words are words that tell us about the order in which events happen when we are telling a story about something that happened in the past. So to get started today, we're going to read this short imaginary story that I wrote about a beach vacation that I would very much like to take. It sounds very enjoyable. Do I have a volunteer of somebody who would be willing to read out loud for me today? It was early in the morning on the first day of spring break, and we were finally on our way to the beach. Mom packed snacks and activities for us in the car, and after what seemed like a decade, we arrived at our hotel. We immediately changed into our bathing suits and ran into the ocean. The water was so cold, but it was worth it. We swam, built a sandcastle, and soaked up the sun. It got dark, so then we went inside to rest and do it all again the next day. So this is a story about a beach vacation, the beginnings of what sounds like a great beach vacation. And there are some words in here that give us a clue about the order in which things happened. Let's look at some examples. These words are called time and sequence words. Time and sequence words are used in a chronological narrative in order to show and clarify the order in which events happened. Here are some examples about doing the dishes, a chore that some of us probably really dread. After dinner, I will do the dishes. This tells us that sometime after dinner ends that you will have to do the dishes, but we don't know exactly when. Is this 5 minutes after dinner, an hour after dinner, a week after dinner? Certainly hope it's not that one. But it tells us that what has to happen first is dinner, and then the dishes will be done after that. I will eventually do the dishes. This is a word that shows us that it probably hasn't happened 5 minutes after dinner is done. It's something that will happen in the future, but not without very much urgency. Maybe a long time after the dishes should have been done. Once we finished eating, I immediately did the dishes. This is telling us that the dishes were done very quickly after dinner was eaten. And then finally, our last example, before I go watch TV, I have to do the dishes. So in this case, it's saying that before you can do something else, that this other thing has to occur. You can see from these examples that these time and sequence words help us have some understanding about how much time happened between dinner, doing dishes, or what has to happen prior to another event. Like in this example, before I can watch TV, I have to do the dishes or do my chore. So let's revisit this imaginary beach vacation that we have and see if we can identify the time and sequence words in this short paragraph. It was early in the morning on the first day of spring break, and we were finally on our way to the beach. This is making it sound like you have been waiting for this amazing beach vacation for forever. Mom packed snacks and activities for us in the car, and after what seemed like a decade, though of course we know it was not actually a decade, we arrived at our hotel. Now, did the people on this beach vacation decide to laze about and not do much of anything for the first few hours of vacation? Of course not. They were excited, so they immediately changed into their bathing suits and ran into the ocean. This is telling us that as soon as they finally arrived at their destination that they were so excited about, that they just didn't worry about anything else, unpacking or anything. They just put their bathing suits on and got to the water, which I don't blame them. I'd probably do that too. We swam, built a sandcastle, and soaked up the sun. It got dark, so then went inside to rest and do it all again the next day. So then is telling us that this happens going inside and resting before they can do it the next day, happens after it gets dark. These are some examples of time and sequence words that give us an idea about what actually happened on this beach vacation and how soon or how quickly the events happened in order. I have a story for you. This is a true story, and we are going to, as a class, see if we can decide which time and sequence words work best for my kind of terrifying story that I have to tell you. This is my adorable cat, Tonks. He is very, very sweet, but he doesn't have much going on in that sweet little head of his, but he's very funny, and his smushy little face makes him look grumpy, but he's not actually grumpy. Now, this is a true story that happened to me in the early days of the pandemic. I was teaching a piano lesson online on my computer. I was at my desk. I felt something tickle my foot, and I looked down, and a cockroach ran across my foot. And y'all, when I tell you I screamed, I was so startled. It freaked me out. I had no idea what to do. And of course, I was like startled and scared of it. And unfortunately, living in Texas, cockroach being present in your home is a reality that you have to deal with sometimes. Now, Tonks, with that sweet little grumpy face of his, pounced on the roach and killed it for me. And I have decided to name him Protector of the Bouse House because he is now my knight in shining armor. Now, if you turn in your textbook to the page that has to do with time and sequence words, let's see if we can reference that chart to come up with some time and sequence words that would fit with this story. Let me give you a few ideas. While I was teaching a piano lesson online, and this is a good time and sequence word to use here because it's telling me that two things are happening at the same time. Teaching a piano lesson and then feeling something tickle my foot all happen at the same time. Now, if I were to rewrite this list of events into a paragraph, I would need to use a connecting word to connect these two ideas together. I don't think I'm going to use a time and sequence word here because I think that that just stands by itself. Now, do you think eventually I screamed? After 6 hours, did I scream? No. What is a term for me screaming as soon as I saw what was going on with this nasty bug? If your idea was something like immediately, I think that would work really well. If your idea was something like when I saw the bug, I screamed, that would also work. Because that was a nasty moment in my life. What about if I said because of the cockroach, I screamed? That would also work. These are all examples of time and sequence words that would go along with screaming. Because, when, and immediately all indicate the succession of events, how quickly it happened from the bug running across my foot to me screaming very loudly, my poor student. Now, some of these same words are going to work for the next event in our list of events as well. Tonks did not pounce on the roach 10 minutes later. He went straight to my rescue immediately. Here are some other ideas of a time and sequence word to use other than immediately, because we've already used that one. We could say we could say at that moment, Tonks pounced on the roach. That would work because, of course, he pounced on the roach the moment that he saw it. Then I think we could probably combine these two phrases into one sentence. At that moment, Tonks pounced on the roach, and killed it. At that moment, Tonks pounced on the roach and killed it. Later on that evening, once I recovered from the terrifying nature of seeing a roach crawl across my foot, Tonks was named Protector of the Bouse House. Or I could say because of his heroic act, which might be a little dramatic, but not too dramatic, Tonks was named Protector of the Bouse House. These are all examples of time and sequence words that show us how much time lapses between one event and another. So this week in the assignment that you are going to write, you are required to use at least 3 time and sequence words. Before you submit your assignment, be sure you go back through your essay and you can label which time and sequence words you have used and where they are present in your essay, so you are sure you have fulfilled all the assignment requirements.